Gangs. Harder penalties should be enforced against gang crimes. In the world today, we face a continuously growing danger of gangs of violent youth who group together into gangs and commit crimes together. For many, it is a life that appears glamorous on TV, books, movies, and video games. They think that gang life will lead them to riches and fame and sense of belonging in the world. But the cruel reality is that riches, fame, and family often never come with the gang life. Most of what gang members find is cruelty, pain, suffering, and death. But when they group together for malicious purposes, it poses nothing but danger for their communities and societies as a whole. With proper penalties, many will strain from the life of gangs and crime, and society as a whole will be a much safer and more productive place. There's an old ad that would come on TV and say, "It's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are?" At the time, it was appropriate because most of the dangers of gang life were outside the world and not in the securities of our homes and schools. Well, nowadays, a more appropriate advertisement would be, "School is in session. Do you know what your child is doing?" In many schools in the inner cities and low-income neighborhoods, the restrooms are a place full of drugs, weapons, sex, and violence. In fact, in one school restroom, one child was ganged up on, beaten to a bloody pulp by several gang members. This is no longer a problem that only occurs on the streets of young adults, but it is happening in our schools and in children as old as 8 years old. A slap on the wrist is no longer sustainable punishment for a gang member. A more evolved and sophisticated juvenile court is needed to punish and rehabilitate those troubled youth. The right approach is not being taken to eliminating the gangs in the United States. In many cities across the U.S., they have tried suing gangs. This includes getting a court-ordered injunction keeping them from hanging out together on street corners, in cars, and other popular gang hangouts. These efforts to separate the young adults are aimed at preventing gang activity rather than stopping it in the progress. Restraints such as these give police legal reason to stop and question gang members who are, according to authorities, often found in possession of drugs and weapons. In some cases, gang members aren't even allowed to talk to people passing in cars or carry spray paint. Some argue that these lawsuits take it too far and that they limit otherwise lawful activities and punish minority youth. If you're stopping people from talking in the streets, it makes it difficult to tell if they're a gang member or just people discussing issues, said Peter Bibbring, an attorney at the American Civil Liberties Union of Southern California. In areas where these programs have been initiated, the crime rate has started to drop and the property value has started to climb. As an example, during the summer, Wichita Falls sued 15 members of the Vieiro Cornelius gang because of violent trouble starting another gang, which caused around 50 drive-by shootings in a city less than 100,000 people. Since then, the crime rate has dropped by 13%. In San Francisco, City Attorney Dennis Herrero sued 4 gangs after an eruption of gang violence after the first gang-related injunction. In the city of Fort Worth, the city sued 10 members of the North Side 4-Trey Gangsta Crips after 2 gang members were killed in retaliation for previous violence. Former gang members have stated that these separation laws will not stop the gang activity. Ushama Anderson, a 30-year-old former gang member from Fort Worth, states that back when he was involved with the gang life and the injunctions had been in place, then him and his group of friends would simply move out of the areas they affected and continue their activities. In recent years, we have seen an increase in gang activity, but not only on the streets but also in schools. The current laws and regulations are not doing enough to combat this situation, but there are also communities that are effectively handling this situation that more provides a nonviolent and effective solution. I strongly believe that if more areas in the United States use the tactics and programs to combat gangs that other communities use, then the gang problem would be far smaller than it is right now. I hope you enjoyed my speech. I'll see you today for finals. Bye.